I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday tone tip. A question that I get asked all the time is, how do I make my guitars sound bigger and wider when I'm playing live and I'm the only guitar player in the band? Well, I'm someone who plays as the only guitar player in my band. If you haven't already, you can check out the Ragdoll back catalog like everywhere on the internet or over on my channel. And I want to show you a couple of things that I've been using recently just as some kind of secret sauce on top of my guitar sound. Now, a lot of the time, I actually don't run in stereo live. I just run in mono, but that's because a lot of the rooms that I play, the PA is only mono. So you just save a lot of potential problems down the track by just giving your front of house engineer a single mono guitar sound. And for the majority of my gigging life, I've played mono with either an amplifier and a cabinet with a single microphone in front of it, or with the Axe-Fx just running this way. But every now and then you get a big treat and you get to play in stereo. And when I do play stereo, here's a couple of things that I like to do. So before we do that, I have the USA Lead mid-gain model with an IR that I made of my Marshall cabinet with greenbacks. This TV Mix 7 is up on Axe-Change. There is a touch of reverb on there. This is the Recording Studio C reverb. This is my basic tone. And that's the sort of thing I would normally roll with live. Now, in order to kind of get this stereo widening, fake doubled thing going on, the enhance block is probably the easiest place to start in the Axe-Fx 3. So let's do that. Let's right click and I will dial up the enhancer. The enhancer has 3 modes: modern, classic, and stereoizer. At just the stock settings, I think the modern mode sounds really good to give you this kind of stereo width and almost like a kind of fake doubling thing. Let's hear it. That sounds really, really nice. It's not too overstated. It does just make the guitar sound thicker. If you want it to sound wider, play around with the width, and you can also increase things like the depth and the high cut. Let's hear it with just the width at maximum. Make sure you're listening in stereo as well. If you're, sitting on the toilet watching this through your mono phone speaker, you're probably just going to hear all of these as the same effect. So headphones are a must. That's really nice with the width at 100%. If I increase the depth, have a listen to the effect on the tone. That's probably just slightly too overstated for me there, so I'll bring the depth back down. You can, of course, increase the low cut or the high cut, but I quite like where it's at. We do have 2 other modes. We can try the classic mode. Have a listen to this. From memory, the classic effect there is essentially using a very short delay. If you've seen things like, the John Petrucci stereo thickening thing, or if you've seen Michael Dolce's excellent Axe-Fx videos, he does something similar, but using a ping pong delay. So that's the classic enhancer, and there's also the stereoizer, which is a little bit more subtle again. For my money, playing really heavily distorted guitars though, that modern mode, basically at the stock settings, is where I really like the enhancer block. If you were playing with maybe a cleaner kind of sound, something like the stereoizer or the classic would be a great way to go. One extra thing on the modern mode, is it the modern mode or the classic mode? It's on the classic mode. Is it on the modern mode? No, it's on the classic mode. You can actually phase invert one of the channels. This is not dissimilar to what something like a TC2290 delay does. So again, you need to listen in stereo, but if I just phase reverse, say the left side, this is going to sound ultra wide. That's super wild, and I really like that on lead lines more than I like it on kind of rhythm guitars. But again, just the modern mode to make your guitar just sound a little bit kind of thicker live. There are some other techniques we can use in here, so let's try the pitch block. A real classic way of achieving this is to use a stereo detune. This is the, kind of Eddie Van Halen balance tone, and just about every tone you heard from the late 80s. So we'll do this. The idea here is we are going to detune our signal just very slightly. So a cent is 1% of a semitone. So my favorite detune settings are like plus or minus 11. So what I'm going to do is I'll detune voice 1 by 11 cents, and I will detune voice 2 by 11 cents. I will pan them hard left and hard right. I normally like to kind of turn the high cut down and the mix down with this pitch detune thing, just so it's not too overstated. This is going to sound pretty similar to what we had going on with the enhancer, but it's got its own character, which I really, really do like. So it's really thick and chewy, and it's almost like a chorus without the wobble in there. So that is a really classic effect, the pitch detune. You can play around with the detune amounts and the mix to really dial it into your taste. We are going to revisit this in a few minutes at the end of the video, but for now you can also add, say, a little bit of delay offset. Like if you try, I don't know, let's go 11 for everything. 11 milliseconds on one side, 7 milliseconds on another. You get wonderful stuff. Again, the enhancer is a little bit more subtle and it doesn't immediately make it sound 80s, but if you are going for that 80s kind of thing, this is fantastic, especially on clean sounds when you combine it with something like the tri-stereo chorus. I have a video doing this over on my channel, which you should check out. All right, another thing we can use is a flanger block, which we normally associate a flanger with a really overstated effect. I'm going to do this in parallel. I did a video last week or the week before with the Yamaha SPX 90, and it has a patch called Symphonic on there, which essentially Yamaha describe as exactly the same as their flanger patch, just with fewer parameters. So what I'm going to do is dial up a flanger, and I did my best to match these settings with a real SPX 90. I have it in here as SPX 90 Symphonic. So slow rate, a little bit of feedback. I'm connecting it in parallel, so I am mixing it in at 100%, and I'm going to use the level to control the amount of effect that I want. I've got it as a triangle wave, and there are a few other little things in here. I have shared the Symphonic match over on Axchange if you want to try it. But this, I'm going to turn the level down by 6 dB. This is your kind of Zakk Wylde No More Tears tone, and again, it's just got its own thing going on that the pitch detune and the enhancer don't. So it does the widening thing, but there also is a little bit of swirl happening from the modulation in there. You can go a lot more subtle with this. For example, if you set it to -12. You can also achieve a very similar effect using a delay block. I've also got some kind of SPX 90 symphonic style delays in here as well. And again, go really easy with the effect level, but this is a 30 millisecond delay, so a little bit longer than we can get in the flanger block. 30% feedback, and again, there's a little bit of modulation in there. This time though, using a sine wave, so it's gonna be a little bit smoother. Beautiful stuff. There is one last trick that I want to share with you, and full credit to Cooper Carter. If you're not following his YouTube channel and you haven't seen his tutorials on this channel, go and check them out. He's not only a fantastic instructor, he's an amazing player as well. And he put up some settings that he uses to essentially mimic the TC Electronic Mimic pedal. And this is how you do it. What I'm going to do is get rid of this delay block. I've actually got these settings saved in here. I will put a link in the video description to the post over on the Fractal forum where he's got the mimic settings, but I'm just going to pop them in here in two ways. I have them saved to my blocks library. We're going to start with a pitch block, and like I said, I've saved these settings in here as the mimic. And what we have to do is go to the controllers section, and I'm also going to bring up the controllers block in here, which basically sets the LFOs as a pair of random LFOs there. And then there's a bunch of assignments happening here. I don't kind of want to steal Cooper's thunder. I'll let him explain it over on the forum. But with the mix at about 30% with these controllers in there, this is actually what I use in my live preset now. As much as I like the enhancer, as much as I like that symphonic sound, this is just enough for what I like, and those random LFOs kind of modulating the detune, and the level is really good at giving it the kind of inconsistency that you would get if you had two guitar players playing. If you want to hear this effect, Ragdoll just released a live album, and I actually reamped the DI guitars using this amp model and using this mimic setting in here. So you can go and check that out in a live context. It made the guitars just really bloom in the mix and take up the required space. Again, because I play in a band with one guitar player. Live, you can get away by just being really, really loud, but when it comes to recording, the stereo spread is really handy. Like I said, I will put a link in the description of this video if you want to find the forum post which contains these particular settings. So that's what I'm actually using live, but those symphonic settings in there, the pitch detune, you could get away by just using something like the dimension chorus in the chorus block, or the enhancer, of course. The enhancer is probably the block you're going to want to do, and I've been having people ask me for years to do something on the enhancer block, and here it is. Let me know which of these methods you liked the most, and if you're using any of these in your live presets, feel free to chime in with some of your favorite settings, because it's a wonderful thing, you know, playing guitar live and doing as much as we can to maximize the impact of our guitar tones. And the Axe FX is such an amazingly versatile and powerful unit for doing that. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'll see you next time. Cheers.